If you want to take better pictures on your next adventure, you really need to understand how your camera operates. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through all the buttons and functionality on the outside of the Sony A7R III. Coming up. Hey, it's John with JohnLaGuardia.com, bringing tips and tools for outdoor adventures. On this channel I do gear reviews and gear tutorials like this one. So if you're new here, please consider subscribing. Alright, let's jump into the Sony A7R III. Okay, this is the Sony A7R III. It's a powerful and flexible camera for all of life's adventures. You can capture all the action with the IAF tracking and up to 10 frames per second of continuous shooting. This is an amazing camera. Its compact body is the perfect blend of flexibility and mobility. It's the camera that I personally take on all of my outdoor adventures now. I recently ditched the Nikon D850 for this camera so that I could be lighter and more nimble in the mountains, and it's really paid off for me. There's a bit of learning curve when it comes to getting familiar with this camera. Now, let's walk through all of the buttons and features on the outside of the A7R III. On the front of the camera, you have your on-off switch right here, and that on-off switch is really easy to flick open. You've got a shutter button where when you half press it, it engages the autofocus, and a full press actuates the shutter and takes the image. There's a front dial here as well that allows you to adjust in the different shooting modes, but it also is very helpful in manual mode as it becomes your aperture selection dial. There's a remote sensor here for RF connectivity with an external remote, and underneath the battery grip here on the inside is the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna. Up here is the AF illuminator. So basically what happens there is it supplies a little bit of fill light so that you can focus better in low light with the autofocus. Then it also acts as a self-timer lamp that flashes when it's in the self-timer mode. There is a lens release button down here on the front, and when you press that button it allows you to take the lens off. We're just going to remove this cap, and under the cap is the image sensor along with the lens contacts, and those are two things you never want to touch. This outside ring is called the mount, and then you've also got your mounting reference point here, so you just line that up with your lens when you put it on, and that allows you to mount onto the E-mount system. Now the question of the day for you is, what's your favorite lens for the Sony A7R III? Please comment down below and let others know what you're using and what your recommendation is. Now I'm going to switch to the top, so I'm just going to move this around here a little bit so that you can see that better. There's a position mark here which actually denotes the plane of the sensor inside the camera. So if you needed to measure your distance for a close-up shot or something, you would measure to that point, and that would give you the exact measurement for that shot. Next to that is the speaker that you can hear externally when you're reviewing a video. You do have to make sure you turn that on in the system. By default it's turned off. There is a multi-interface shoe here, also known as the hot shoe. Allows you to put a external flash or other devices on there. You do have the mode dial, which I'm not going to go into detail on the mode dial, but it does have a lock button on the inside, and we'll cover each one of these modes in a separate video, so be looking for that. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when I post that video. You'll have custom buttons, number 1 and number 2, where you can customize the settings on those particular buttons in case you want to get to them quickly. And then the exposure compensation dial allows you to really dial in your exposure. Now on the right side you've got these hooks for the media strap, but then we also have the media door, which there's something really satisfying about this. I just absolutely love this little door. It's so much better than on the Nikons. But of course you've got your card slot 1 on the bottom and card slot 2 on the top for your SD memory cards. And then this little insignia right here is called the N mark. This one is a touch point for connecting the camera and NFC enabled smartphones. So that would be like an Android phone. NFC stands for near field communication, or short range wireless technology is all that is. So you're able to use your phone with that. And then let's hop over to the left side of the camera. And here we have a few doors that we can open. And behind door number 1, we've got the microphone jack in red, and then a flash sync terminal that you can use a flash sync cable with that, and you can attach things like a pocket wizard to those. That's a very handy feature. We've also got the headphone jack for monitoring audio during video capture, and an HDMI micro jack. So with this jack you could mount an Atomos display for larger viewing during video capture, and that does have a clean output, meaning that there's no on-screen menu information that goes through that port, so that's kind of nice. Let's see what we've got here. We've got our USB-C terminal, which can be used for powering the camera and charging the battery at the same time. And just be aware that it takes about 5 seconds for the light to come on that, but it is charging right away. And then your multi or micro USB terminal can be used for charging the battery or connecting Sony multi accessories is what they're called. So just note that both of these jacks cannot be used at the same time. You have to use one or the other. They can't be used simultaneously. Are you getting value out of this video? If yes, hit that like button below. Now, on the back of the camera, we've got, of course, your electronic viewfinder, and then your eyepiece cup, and it is removable if you just push it up like that. I'm not going to take it off all the way. Then you have a diopter, which allows you to set the focus on the electronic viewfinder based on your IRX. Then you've got a C3 programmable button here on the left, which can also be used as a lock button for your media. Of course, the menu button, which is where you're going to spend the most of your time sifting through the many menus. And in a future video, I will also walk you through each of the menu settings inside of that, but that could be a series of 3 or 4 videos coming up actually. Then we've also got the record button for movies. Then your autofocus on button for shooting, and that can also be used to enlarge an image when you're viewing images. I've programmed mine to be my back button focus, and I'll have another video coming out on how that can be set up. Next we've got the AEL button, which is called the Auto Exposure Lock, and this can be used to lock your exposure when reframing a scene. So this could be really helpful if you're stitching multiple images together and you want to keep the exposure from changing as you move the camera around the scene. So if you wanted to get a really large picture file, you could take a series of 9 images, say, or 20 images, how many ever that you want. And that would allow you to use that button and keep the exposure exactly the same in each of those scenes. You also have your rear dial button, which is used for adjusting shooting mode settings or your shutter speed in manual mode. So that's a very important dial there as well. This button here is called your multi-selector. It's also referred to as the joystick, but it's great for moving your focus points around, especially when you're in single focus mode. That works really well. You've got a function button right below that, which gives you all of your shooting options on the screen, and it can also be used as a send to smartphone button where you can send your images directly to your smartphone when connected. The control wheel below that is used to navigate, and there's also a select button in the center as well. You've got all kinds of other display options that you can use: ISO, your timer, your shooting mode as well. And then just below that dial is the play button for playing your media back, and then also a delete button, which I never ever use. I also always delete in post. You can make that choice yourself, but that's kind of a best practice that we typically use. And then that can be acted as a C4 button as well, and that's programmable. Be sure to check out this camera and other gear I use in the links down in the description below. And if you'd like to see other videos that I've created to support your outdoor adventures, click or tap the screen to the right. I can't wait to see you in a future video. Bye for now.